Hey, boys and girls, this book is called Space Explorers by John Erickson and Ashley Chase, and it is from Amplify Science. Space Explorers. This is an important feature of a nonfiction text, and it is called the table of contents. The table of contents tells you what subjects or chapters are in the book and what pages they start on. Exploring space. One way to explore space is to take off in a spaceship or go there. That is not the only way. There are many ways to explore space. Some space explorers take off in a spaceship. This book tells about 3 explorers who help us learn more about space. One of them has been in space 3 times. The other 2 have never left Earth. Still, they are space explorers. This is a kind of telescope. People use telescopes to explore space from here on Earth. And this is another important feature of nonfiction text, is pictures with captions underneath. The pictures and the captions can tell you a lot about the topic and give you a lot of information. So it's important that you pay attention to all of the features of a nonfiction text. Who's in this book? This is a book about people who explore space. Choose a part to find out more. Jane uses telescopes to study stars. You can read about her on page 8. Stephanie has gone into space 3 times. You can read about her on page 16. And Aaron makes rovers for exploring Mars. You can read about him on page 26. Jane studies the stars. Jane Rigby loves looking at the stars. She looks at them through telescopes. Jane Rigby is a scientist who studies stars. When she was a kid in Delaware, Jane used a telescope like this one. This is a small telescope for looking at stars. Today, Jane works on making new kinds of telescopes. She uses them to find out new things about stars. Jane is working on this new telescope. It will go into space and take pictures. Jane knows a lot about telescopes. She uses some of the biggest telescopes in the world. Here, Jane is standing in front of some very large telescopes. She uses them to look at stars. Jane uses telescopes to explore huge groups of stars. She looks for places where new stars are forming. She learns how groups of stars change over time. This picture was taken by a telescope in space, and it shows a huge group of stars. Sometimes there is a strange object called a black hole in the middle of a big group of stars. Jane uses telescopes to find black holes and learn more about them. This is a black hole. An artist made this picture of the black hole at the center of a huge group of stars. Jane loves watching stars with her wife and kid. Jane's wife and kid sometimes come to see her at work. Here, they are all standing in front of the telescope Jane is working on. Sometimes they go sailing too, even during the daytime. They know they are sailing under the light of a star. That star is the sun. The sun is the closest star to Earth. Stephanie flies into space. When Stephanie Wilson was a kid in Massachusetts, she liked to look at the sky at night. She could see planets and stars far away in space, and she wanted to learn more about space. Stephanie Wilson is an astronaut. Now Stephanie is an astronaut. She's been to space 3 times. She says taking off is the ride of a lifetime. This is a spaceship Stephanie flew in. From space, Stephanie could look down at Earth. The colors were beautiful. An astronaut took this picture of Earth from space. The green glow is called the Northern Lights. Stephanie is not just an astronaut, she's also an engineer. She puts things together. She fixes things and makes them work. Stephanie is an engineer as well as an astronaut. Stephanie helped to build part of a space station. It is a place where astronauts live and work. The space station is always moving. It goes around and around Earth in space. So there's Earth, and there's the space station. So this is another important feature of nonfiction text. It's called a diagram. This picture shows Earth, and it shows the space station, and it labels them. The space station flies around and around Earth. Stephanie flew to the space station with other astronauts. Their spaceship carried new parts for the space station. Astronauts float in their spaceship when they fly around Earth. Robot arm. The robot arm was very long. The spaceship had a long arm, like the arm of a robot. Stephanie was the one who made the robot arm move. Using the robot arm, Stephanie grabbed the new parts. She fitted them into the space station. When the work was done, the space station was bigger. More astronauts could live there. And this is a model of new parts. Here is Stephanie with a model of the new parts for the space station. The real parts were much bigger than the model. Living in space is different from living on Earth. When you're flying around Earth in a spaceship, everything floats around. Stephanie had to be careful that her tools did not float away. Stephanie floats in space, and so does her food and everything around her. Being an engineer and an astronaut is exciting. Stephanie says what we learn in space also helps people live better on Earth. These are windows on a spaceship. Behind Stephanie, you can see Earth. So she's in the spaceship. Here's the windows, and that's Earth, that blue glowing thing behind her. And you can see the dark corner here is space. Aaron makes Mars rovers. Aaron Yazzie likes to draw and make things. When he was a kid, he drew pictures of the Navajo land where he lived. He also made things like toy airplanes. Aaron Yazzie is from the Navajo Nation. Aaron still makes things. Today, he's an engineer, and he makes rovers for exploring. Aaron is standing in front of a rover. Rovers have wheels. They have tools for studying rocks. They drill into the ground, and they take pictures too. An artist made this picture. It shows a rover exploring Mars. Aaron's rovers are sent very far away. They go all the way to the planet Mars. No people have been to Mars yet. We use rovers to help us explore. This is the planet Mars. When Aaron works on a new rover part, he starts by drawing pictures. He draws every idea he can think of, even silly ideas. This is the kind of drawing Aaron might make when he starts working on something new. Next, Aaron looks at his pictures. He thinks about how the idea could work. He chooses which ideas to build. So here's Aaron Yazzie. Aaron works on a team with lots of other engineers. These are a few of the engineers he works with. When Aaron builds a new rover part, he has to test it. He wants to see if it works. He thinks about how to make the part better. Each part will help us learn something new about Mars. And this is another engineer who works on rovers, and he's testing a rock drill to see if it works. Aaron says exploring Mars helps us understand Earth better too. He says, when we learn about Mars, we learn about our home. This is a picture that Aaron Yazzie drew for some kids. On one side, it shows a Navajo building and on Earth, and on the other side, it shows a rover on Mars. This is the glossary, and the glossary gives you important words, vocabulary words that are in the book, and it tells you what their definition is. This is a very important feature of a nonfiction text. Astronaut, a person who goes into space. Daytime, the part of the day when the sky is bright. Earth, the planet we live on. Engineer, a person who makes something to solve a problem. Explore, to try to find out new things about a place. A planet, a round object in space like Earth, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, or Saturn. Stars, the objects in space that look like dots of light in the sky. Sun, the bright object in space that gives us light in the daytime. Telescope, a tool for observing objects that are very far away. And this is an index, and an index is another very important feature of a nonfiction text because it tells you important words that were mentioned in the book, and it tells you what pages they were mentioned on. So astronaut was mentioned on page 16 through 25, every page between those, and page 34. Spaceships was mentioned on page 4, page 17, and page 21 through 25. Sun was mentioned on page 15. So this tells you where words are mentioned in the book. This book is called Space Explorers from Amplify Science. I hope you loved it.